a resumption of broadcast. I'm talking about the election today, and I'm talking about the high levels of enthusiasm seen amongst college students. There's a 7-hour-long line seen at one university, Lehigh University, and for anybody who's still there and just needs more motivation to vote, I'll just quickly play Hadley.
When I was 5, I began getting sexually abused by my stepfather.
Trigger warning.
I was 8 when he raped me for the first time.
Ooh, maybe we'll go back to that. All right, we'll go back to that because it's tough to lead with something like that. Let's go to the nice news, because yes, Hadley does need you to go vote if you haven't yet. If you haven't voted, to protect women and to allow them to have options in their life and autonomy in their life, so that they aren't left without recourse to medical care when they need it, whether it's to exercise choice about their family planning, or whether it's because they're experiencing a pregnancy complication or a miscarriage complication that results in them needing treatment for hemorrhaging, for residual septic tissue, for anything that could leave someone with ongoing atrial fibrillation or heart rhythm problems, someone with ongoing cardiac or kidney issues. You need to vote for the women in your life, and also because you don't want to be Germany. In the 1930s, the late 1930s and the early 1940s. You don't want that for your country. You don't want someone who's promised high tariffs, mass camps, mass deportations. Just trust me, I'm the granddaughter of Holocaust survivors, and that shit spirals out of control in ways that are too gruesome to even contemplate. So over to the good news about voting today. There's apparently been extremely high voter turnout in Philadelphia. The Democratic Party chairman, Bob Brady from Philadelphia, tells reporter Brian Lennis. So he says, voter turnout in Philadelphia is extremely high. We're predicting very high turnout, much higher than 2020. The African-American numbers are coming in high, and a lot of women. Does this mesh with what you guys are seeing and hearing on the ground? Because I hear that the number of women at voting lines is a standout, and that women have been outnumbering men, and overall it's looking like we've kept about a 10-point percentage gap over men. The gender gap is women are 10 points higher than men, and that is not to say men are voting for Donald Trump, but that a very high proportion of women are knowing what's at stake for their own reproductive rights. And look, it's not to say some women don't vote Republican. Some women are misguided enough not to believe that things could ever happen to them or their loved ones. And they also tend to buy into the logical fallacy of the naturalistic logical fallacy that pregnancy is a net neutral for women's health, when really pregnancy can jeopardize your health and requires modern medical interventions for a lot of different conditions: ectopic pregnancy, septic uterus, premature rupture of membranes, placenta previa, etc., etc. So what else did they note? Oh, the Philadelphia Democratic Party chairman also noted the Puerto Rican vote is extremely high. We hope to get to Obama numbers. As of 3:30, we are at 60% turnout with more than 4 hours left. In 2020, we hit 65% turnout in Philadelphia. We think we'll get 70, and we're hoping for 80. So 2020, they hit 65% turnout. They're already at 60% turnout at 3:30. This is very promising. And there's been some strong election day numbers in the blue cities in Texas as well. As of 3 p.m., Harris has got 200,000 and Biden got 200,000 in total in 2020. She's up to 120,000 in Dallas, and Biden had 118,000 in 2020. And Tarrant, she's already at 104,000, and in 2020, it was 102,000 in total. So, and there's 3 more hours to vote. So there should be some pretty good finishing numbers. I'm excited about it. Again, here's just another reporter confirming that the Harris campaign has been seeing high Puerto Rican turnout in Philadelphia. And as of midday, the 3 wards that contained the highest concentration of Puerto Rican registered voters in the city were already at 79% of total 2020 turnout. And across the board, they're seeing very high enthusiasm amongst college students. This is the university. For instance, in Pennsylvania, long lines on the campus of Lehigh University are up to 7 hours long. So first of all, poor students, I'm sorry they're tried to do voter suppression by making the lines up to 7 hours long. But nevertheless, that's still indicative of high voter enthusiasm, that people are even joining those lines and sitting in those lines and waiting to vote. And we know that young people have a predisposition to vote for Kamala Harris because they understand that if a Christian theocratic regime takes office, and Trump certainly has a coalition of convenience with Christian theocratic maniacs who want to not only take away women's access to medical choice, they also want to come after rights to contraceptive access and to make recreational sex illegal where possible by making contraception more difficult to obtain, so that ultimately their goal is to have sex be available only to married partners and probably for reproductive purposes only, which is not cool, not fun, and certainly very abusive to people who are not heterosexual, of which there are a considerable amount, and young people are considerably sympathetic to the position that gay people should have the right to marry and engage in sexual activity. So there's 67 people with us. That's exciting. I hope you're here for some more good news. Trump is already whining that people are cheating in Pennsylvania, which is a good indication that he understands he's losing, and that we, the Democratic supporters, the supporters of democracy, the supporters of women's rights, the people who understand that expressing admiration for Hitler, as reported by Trump's longest-serving chief of staff, John Kelly, is not a qualifying attribute. In fact, it's a significantly disqualifying attribute. You do not want as leader of the President of the United States, again, someone who admires Hitler and who's also been observed adopting Hitler-type rhetoric and also the Hitler-type policies of separating children from their parents. Because Hitler didn't arrive at the gas chamber straight away. There was definitely an escalation and a series of steps that led towards the same death camps that killed my great-grandparents. And what you can observe is early similarities. So when Trump and Hitler both adopt language like migrants or Jews are poisoning the blood of the country, that dehumanizing rhetoric that seeks to gain power from uniting people around an idea of vengeance and violence against a vilified minority group. They're interchangeable. Fascism doesn't settle on one target and stick to it. They escalate violent rhetoric against a whole bunch of different moving targets. So in Hitler's case, yes, it was Jews. Trump doesn't vilify Jews. Although he did entertain notorious Holocaust denier Nick Fuentes at Mar-a-Lago for dinner alongside of Kanye West. And then he's afterwards all like, I don't know who Nick Fuentes is. I don't know who Kanye is. Well, Kanye just brought him over for dinner. Sure, Donald, you've always got some kind of plausible deniability because you're not as stupid as they say, but you are definitely as immoral and dangerous and have already caused the unnecessary death by neglect and willful mismanagement of a pandemic of literally hundreds of thousands of Americans, to say nothing of the harm caused to the state of public health in the United States. There's more vaccine refusal now as a consequence of Trump harnessing and weaponizing conspiracy theories to set himself up as a proud, contrarian authority in contrast to the authority of doctors and public health officials. Trump positioned himself as the only truth in contrast to the lying press or the fake news. And I say lying press because Hitler's catchphrase was also Lügenpresse, meaning lying press. And Trump has his own catchphrase of that same nature. And it's a tool to help detach people from reality, detach his supporters specifically from reality, so that when you argue with them, you'll find they don't need evidence, they don't process evidence anymore. They'll just smilingly reiterate Trump talking points as if they're immune to challenge reason, logic, data, or facts. And they're united in a common bond. They've been emotionally manipulated by a fascist con artist to join his cult of personality. And it's very hard to help retrieve people once they've consented to join a cult. It's hard. But the good thing is that Trump helps, and his very presence in this presidential race helps to turn out Democratic supporters. So that's why I strongly believe that this will be definitely a victory for Kamala Harris and quite probably a landslide victory as well. Florida's a hard one because a lot of conservative people moved to Florida because of Ron DeSantis's embrace of the Trumpist position that the COVID risk wasn't real, and he was very cavalier with the health of people in Florida, and that attracted more Republicans who weren't able to process risk appropriately anymore and move to that state as a consequence. So we'll see about how Florida goes. I know Christopher Bouzy is very up-tempo about Florida's prospects. I don't know much about what the turnout is looking like in Florida, but soon we shall be getting some exit polls, and that will be exciting news for people as well. I'm going now to Simon. Hi, sweetie. Mummy's on a broadcast. Oh, you wanted to say hi? Okay, my daughter's coming because she understands this is an epic moment of human history as well. And as a leader of the free world, who would you like to be leader of the free world, darling?
Kamala Harris, obviously.
Obviously. I mean, I'm sure Europeans are anxiously watching today's developments as well, because if Putin's pal Trump gets in office, then Trump's intention is to weaken NATO as a favor to Putin, and that would encourage and embolden Putin to attack more countries and to intensify his attacks on Ukraine. And it would deprive Ukraine of the assistance that a sane democratic president would offer Ukraine going forwards. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Do you want to go do some reading, or what are you going to go do? Where's your dog? Do you want to show the internet your puppy? This is just her soft toy puppy who is fun. All right, sweetheart, I got to get back to my work. Do you want to say anything cool about anything?
If Kamala Harris wins by a lot tonight, we could know.
Oh, we could know this evening.
We could know, right, like this
We
evening.
could know if the exit polls are really
If she just wins by
like
okay, like there's no need to do it. Like right off the bat, you find out she wins really quickly. Like she wins a big.
that would be nice if
State
people just go, oh,
numbers.
look, the independents have clearly broken so strongly for Kamala
It
Harris.
would be so amazing.
Would be so amazing. And it's a strong possibility because I think a lot of independents who are not
Really
mashed,
excited.
brainwashed MAGA types are turning out to protect women's rights and to protect the stability of American society and the American economy. Economists have warned that Trump tariffs would be a destabilizer and damage the American economy and cause huge inflationary pressure on your budgets, in your pocketbook, and your ability to buy things that you like, which would contract the economy overall. If goods and services had this huge extra tax on them, on everything, because Trump's issued blanket tariffs on goods imported from China and they've retaliated with their own tariffs, who pays tariffs? If you're a Trump supporter, you're probably going to wrongly answer that it is Chinese companies that pay the tariffs. Wrong. If Trump imposes tariffs, they are charged to the American companies that import goods from China. And when they import the goods, they have to pay an additional sum of money, a percentage of what they've purchased, the purchase price, to the American government. That's where they collect tariff money from, American companies. And those American companies will then either eat the cost and go bankrupt or just lose a significant amount of their profit margin, or they will pass their costs on to consumers, in which case demand will contract because of elevated prices, or at least are likely to raise prices. So that's inflationary pressure, and inflationary pressure across the board is going to make things more expensive and is going to make people less able to afford them. Also because, what? We just scoot over my own broadcast.
Able to see.
Oh, that's very uncomfortable for me. All right, I tell you what, we'll take that thing away for a second. How about that?
Better, thank
Better.
you.
Oh, you're like my co-host right now.
I'm your co-host. I'm the guest star.
Oh, you're the guest star. Well, I might move the microphone a bit more. to the
Mama, my
center.
sleeves look like princess sleeves.
They do, because that's called puffy sleeves. You're such a princess. I love you. I know. Princess is a compliment in this context. All right, what did I use as my hashtags today? I used Election Day, Vote 2024, Trump's
Vote.
Big Lie on repeat,
Vote Kamala.
Vote Kamala, and I wrote Harris Waltz, and I wrote landslide on track. So we're still guessing that, but high turnout is associated with landslides for Dems. It's Obama 2012. It's that unexpected thing. It's that overturning or violating of the pundits' predictions because they were hedging their bets and undersampling women and under-recognizing the level of motivation that women feel, switched on women feel, when thinking about their daughters, their loved ones, themselves, and they want to have their legal rights to access medical care as necessary protected. And they don't appreciate being called trash and they don't appreciate being called the other types of names that I see people call women on the internet who want to protect their reproductive rights. We understand that family planning is a key need, a human rights need for women, because it's a form of torture recognized by the United Nations to force a woman to proceed with a pregnancy against her will. If she doesn't want to, and women who have terminations of their pregnancy in later stages, as Pete Buttigieg has said, those are women who've anticipated a pregnancy, maybe chosen a name or built furniture for the nursery, and get the worst medical news you might ever have in relation to your children, and that is the news that your fetus has conditions that are not compatible with life. And in those instances, you want to not have to travel out of state. You want to not have a federal ban on abortion. You want to be able to receive compassionate care and make the choice to either continue a pregnancy that you know has a strong likelihood that your baby will not make it and may, this is sad, baby. The people who have, it's sad for them, but
And they can't get an abortion if it's even Saturdays and the baby won't survive, but if you don't get an abortion, you won't survive. And then you don't want to have to try to travel to another whole country.
You don't want to have to try and escape to another country because your own country has made abortion care illegal. This is true.
And maybe then you won't get to be with your family while your baby's really, really young, and when
you might have other children and you want to be near your family.
When you're trying to get the abortion and you really want some comfort, maybe
you'd like
a situation where everyone can go with you, or your family is in that situation where they can go with you to that state to get the abortion.
Yeah, you maybe want your husband to be able to be with you, or your partner, and you want to be able to go back and see your children. You don't want to be traveling out of the country. You don't want to be traveling out of your state, and you certainly don't want to travel from state to state when Republicans have made pregnancy tests compulsory for women who are traveling across state lines to prevent women from accessing abortion care in different states. And then you're not saying it's up to different states. You're imprisoning women in your own Republican-controlled state so you can control them and you can force them to take on risks to their health and a destabilization of their family planning, because you want them, like in a power grab move. All right, Pumpkin, I'm going to let you go. I thank you so much for being my guest host.
I love being a guest host.
You loved it?
And you will be back in an hour?
Yes. Okay. Love you too.
Make sure
I tell people to vote. Stay in line. Call the hotline if you think there's anything questionable going on.
And I'm really excited because I really want Kamala to win.
I think she will win, Bubba.
Fingers crossed that we can know tonight.
Fingers crossed that we can know tonight. That would be delicious.
Oh, if she wins and we know tonight, that'll be the best.
That's bad. And even if she doesn't, touch wood, that doesn't happen. Even if Trump did win, we would still be part of the resistance and we would help this country.
I'd be really sad.
We would be sad, but we would process our feelings and we would just
do
what we did after 2016, which is your mommy just.
We're giving hope for America.
We are giving hope for the United States. Yes.
Most of America isn't crazy enough to vote for Donald Trump.
I know.
And then America is sane enough to vote for
Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. Yes.
We're
hopeful. We're happy. We're anticipating.
We're begging you, America. Please don't be crazy.
Well, yes. You know, your mama likes to tell people that Trump caused a manufacturing recession in 2019 by virtue of the tariffs that he imposed, which caused American importing businesses to experience raised costs. And then there was 2 consecutive quarters of contracted growth, which constitutes a recession. And that manufacturing recession in 2019, Pete Buttigieg mentions it. Not a lot of people have heard about it because it hadn't got a lot of traction yet. You know how the media likes to go with the narrative has to build and build. And guess what? Even though some places reported on it in 2019, COVID happened after that. So I'm going to bring up the headline from 2019. Then I'm going to get my daughter to go do something else. Just because she's a wonderful co-host.
I am.
You are. Let's see. Oh, you flicked your hand in my face. That ain't right.
Toss.
Toss. All right.
Toss.
I tell you what. We're going to close some of these extra windows and let me go to open.
Close all the windows.
Close all the windows? I got too many windows. Did you poke your own eye?
Yeah. Trying to flick my hair.
I'm so sorry about that.
Instead of flicking it, and I was like, oh. I've looked my eyelash at least. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
my eyelash.
You're a funny co-host.
Of course, I am.
I'm clicking that.
I'm the theater co-host.
You're a theatre girl, and that makes
A
you.
theater co-host, I said.
Oh, you're a
Co-
theatre co-host. Okay.
In Alice
Have
in
I
Wonderland.
closed it? No,
Make
there
sure
it is.
in like December 14th to 15th, I think, to check out.
Shh, stop that. Stop that. You can't tell the internet that.
Oh, okay.
That's not for the internet.
Okay.
Okay, here we go. I did find mine.
I'm gonna go.
You go.
Bye.
Bye, sweetie. Manufacturing is now officially in recession, despite Trump's vow to boost industry. All right. Make it bigger. This is published from October 2019. Oh, Kate Cox was the white woman who started a lawsuit against Texas for depriving her of access to timely medical care. I just accidentally clicked on my link for that. And I clicked on the United Nations, which said abortion bans in a variety of states have made abortion services largely inaccessible and denied women and girls their fundamental rights to comprehensive health care, including sexual and reproductive health. The experts said the bans could lead to violations of women's rights to privacy, bodily integrity and autonomy, freedom of expression, freedom of thought, conscience, religion or belief, equality and non-discrimination, and freedom from torture and cruel, inhuman and degrading treatment and gender-based violence. Women and girls in disadvantaged situations are disproportionately affected by these bans, the experts said. They referred to women and girls from marginalized communities, racial and ethnic minorities, etc. The experts noticed that existing exceptions, although narrow, have proved unworkable in practice. The conditions of the exceptions often do not reflect medical diagnosis and sometimes exclude health-threatening conditions, they said. Even in cases where physicians determine that the abortion can go ahead, they may still find it difficult to assemble a full team given the reluctance of other health professionals. And that's what Republican bans do. They lay out legal complications on top of medical complications. And is that what you want when you go to an emergency department to seek care? Women don't want it. And women and men don't want Trump's tariff policies that cause recessions. Do you see what happened to the manufacturing industry in 2019? That is a consequence of voting people who voted for Trump and allow this idiot who has 6 bankruptcies to do his style of governance, which is performative bullshit. Like his Trump steaks, Trump vodka, Trump planes. Do you see any of those businesses around? No. The only successful thing he does is grift. And he leases his name to buildings and then grifts off the misguided attention of saps as well. And if you're one of those saps, then you probably voted today for Trump. Hopefully not. Maybe you invested in his True Social account. And what has happened to shares of that? The market has got the picture that Kamala Harris is going to win this election, and the share price fell. It was probably just a vehicle for a lot of money laundering anyway for Donald Trump. I'm sorry for the people who thought they could make money from Trump. He makes money from you, his gullible supporters. He makes money from you. He grifts. He sells you Trump orange shoes. He sells you Trump orange watches. He sells you all manner of things. But what he also sells you is what you don't want, which is the unnecessary and preventable death of women. And you don't want that. You don't want medical flight, which is doctors leaving your state because of the extreme abortion bans in your state, and they don't want to be in a position where they face a jail sentence for obeying the Hippocratic Oath to do no harm. They want to be able to treat their patients unencumbered by the ill-informed posturings of Republican legislators, the theocratic maniacs who think they know better than doctors, who want to do a performative piety dance all over your life choices and your life options. So this story was in reference to Amber Nicole Thurman. That's her grave there, because she died after being unable to access timely medical care. She had to leave her state and go to a different state because she couldn't get care for dealing with her situation, which was remnants of fetal tissue. had a 6-year-old son. She didn't want to add to her family at that point, and so she had sought an abortion. She had but was unable to obtain appropriate medical follow-up care in her own state. So she traveled interstate. She had to travel back to her state. Oh no, she's ill. Can she go to an emergency medical department and get help? No. So because of the delay in care, because of the extreme legal complications imposed on doctors in her state and even in adjacent states, Amber Nicole Thurman died, leaving her 6-year-old, was it 6 or 9? Leaving her, I think, 6-year-old son motherless unnecessarily. So these unnecessary deaths and these unnecessary life-threatening situations or health-threatening situations have activated women today to turn out the vote. And I'm so grateful to everybody who's shared their story. I'm so grateful to the men who have looked at women in their lives and said, I don't want you to have to suffer anxiety that this could happen to you. I don't want you to have to look at this gravestone and worry that it could be your early grave, because you don't get treatment that you need as a human being living in a first world country where the hospitals exist, but the willingness to treat patients has been compromised by Republican bans made possible by Donald Trump's purposeful appointment to the Supreme Court of religiously motivated extremists such as Amy Coney Barrett, Brett Kavanaugh, people whose religion isn't limited to governing their own choices and their own moral behavior, but their religion is a form of belief that they should impose their standards on you. But although if they wanted an abortion, they would get one. But the kind of out of your box, mind your own business, failure to mind their own business type of positioning that has made them say, women shouldn't have the protection of Roe v. Wade anymore, because I can be more powerful and influential and I can be applauded in Christian theocratic circles, in pushy, pious, up themselves, idiots who celebrate oppressing women, who have celebrated rolling the rights of women back. And you saw House Republicans celebrate successfully repealing Obamacare in the House, and it didn't make it through the Senate because of the conscience of John McCain, the senator for Arizona, putting his thumb down when the bill was trying to pass through the Senate of the United States. He thumbs it down so they could not have the numbers they needed to repeal the Affordable Care Act and strip health insurance access from 30 million Americans. So if you're with the kind of Republicans who want to roll back programs to help women and children, you're not pro-family, you're not pro-life, you're pro-bullying women and gambling with their lives by removing access to timely and necessary medical care and removing access to personal decisions around family planning, when families can take on the responsibility of being parents and bring loved and wanted children into the world. I have 2 children. They're loved and wanted, and I've consented to continuing that pregnancy on both occasions. I consented to the hardships and the deprivations and the risks associated with pregnancy. I took those risks on. I did it with my full, not entirely informed consent. But that's okay. I didn't have to be 100% informed. People are a little bit shy about sharing some of the realities of some of the varied possibilities associated with labor and pregnancy. It's hard. It's harder for some than others. I didn't have it that hard. Some people have hyperemesis gravida, whatever it is, that one where you get vomiting so severely you lose weight and can be admitted to hospital for severe dehydration. I didn't have that. I just felt nauseous more than I thought I would. I thought morning sickness only applied in the morning, but morning sickness can apply all day. Oh, yes. Thank you, Anne with an E. I love your name. Thank you for referencing the L.M. Montgomery books. The U.S. Constitution. Trump sought in 2020 to misapply a provision of the U.S. Constitution. Oh, my daughter's am I getting messages? Yes, I am. I'm getting messages and I'm going to say yes. Yes. Sorry, it's important. Sweetheart, could you tell your sister something? Come here. Just come here for a second. You don't have to come on screen. I just want you to tell your sister, can she get her friend's blue coat? They left it behind. You grab the blue coat so they're going to come by to get it. Get your sister to take it to the front door, okay? Get your sister to take the blue coat to the front door. Much obliged, darling. All right. Yes, Project 25. Thank you so much for commenting, because it says there's 83 people watching, but I don't have many people commenting, and that's okay. You don't have to comment, but I'm glad that Anne with an E did. Let's talk about Project 2025. Trump tried to distance himself from it, and of course his supporters lap up lies, because why not continue as they have started, believing Trump's lies? So one of the principal authors of Project 2025, Russ Vought, he was an appointee of Donald Trump's. He was the director of the Bureau of Office and Personnel. And he was caught on secret camera, hidden camera, talking to some journalists who were pretending to be wealthy donors. And he said, yes, we understand why Russ Vought, Trump's appointee, former appointee in his administration, said, we understand why Trump would need to distance himself from us, but we've been working with him on this, and this is the blueprint for when he gains office for a second time. And they want to roll back diversity initiatives. They want to defund the Department of Public Education. They want it so that your kids can't go to public school, basically. You'll have to pay for private school because the system of public education will be so heavily defunded that you won't be able to, and particularly if you live in a rural area, you won't be able to access public school, and it won't be profitable for a private school to set up near you, because if you live in a rural area, there's not enough children that live in a local dense area to attend the school. So yeah, people who are happy to send their children to a private school, I guess they can continue doing that. But if you've relied on public schools and the public school system being good, you are shit out of luck if Trump gets in and is able to implement the Project 2025 that is comprised of a bunch of former Trump staffers writing down their wildest fantasies about making life difficult for the subset of American demographics that they don't like, making life more difficult for gay people, making life more difficult for migrants, making life more difficult for Black people, who will then be able to be readily discriminated against because the regulations and the laws to mitigate, not to mitigate racism, but to make it illegal to discriminate against people for being Black, to refuse service to Black people or people of religions. They'll be like, no, we would rather let everybody do what they want in terms of being racist, sexist, misogynistic, etc. So trans people, no hope in hell. We'll kick the gay people out of the military. We'll defund public schools so that, yeah, sure, everybody can get a voucher, but the voucher might be for $100, and rich people can just add it to their bank accounts and go, yep, whatever. Yay, for a free $100 for me, I'll continue sending my kids to a white Christian academy that now is receiving taxpayer funding. Yeah. So let's see, what else have we got from Twitter right now? We will swap and go back to any updates in case there's been any news with reference to exit polls. Let's have a look at what the exit polls are breaking with. All right, let's go home and look at Elon Musk's Twitter is a little bit annoying because he games the algorithm in Trump's favor. Oh, this is a video. Chris Evans says, the white liberals I was dragging on here the other night, I didn't mean her. She has her mother stuttering and mumbling. She does. It's a good video. But it does highlight the family division caused by Trump, because when you lie to people, the people that have the appetite to believe it become distanced from their family members who still retain their grip on reality. And then you just have families at loggerheads with some people saying, but I've given you this fact and this fact and this fact. And then the Trump supporters will just be like, no, you're such a liberal. They will respond with Trump-style demeaning name-calling things rather than positions. So when they ask you, what Trump policy do you actually like? Well, of course I can't say a Trump policy because you're just so terrible as a Kamala Harris supporter. They have nothing of substance. He doesn't have any policies that any rational, sane person could defend. His tariff policies have been broadly panned by economists. All of the the Nobel Prize winning economists have put their names to a letter saying, please note, Kamala Harris's policies for the American economy are good, and Trump's policies for the economy will cause significant inflationary pressure. Families will possibly be paying $4,000 a year or more extra in additional taxes on the goods that they purchase. And the wealthy will obtain enormous tax cuts, and middle-class families and working-class families will bear the burden on their shoulders of maintaining the infrastructure of the United States, the expenses associated with maintaining a military, police and fire departments, public schools, although under Project 2025, wave goodbye to public schools, public hospitals. Think of all the things that your taxpayer dollars pay for, which rich people's taxes contribute significantly to. And Donald Trump will say, well, don't worry, rich people, you don't have to pay that anymore. Thanks to the Supreme Court conservatives for passing Citizens United so that wealthy people can donate millions upon millions of dollars to super PACs in a workaround of federal campaign finance laws so that they can purchase or attempt to purchase as much political power as they possibly can via the moldable brains of gullible people who watch Fox.
You guys just did ride Trump.
And you're crazy.
You still can't give a Trump policy.
You're a very crazy person.
You're crazy for not doing your own
But you're
research.
just a little shit
Can you give me
that
one
will
Trump
do
policy?
anything. Kamala Harris, hold on.
Thank God you said it right this time.
Oh, I will do everything for the people. Hold on.
What's one Trump policy? Because I already told you all of
I can't
Kamala's.
speak.
Not all of them, because there's really good ones I couldn't get into. But I did give you at least 5. So is there one Trump one or no?
I can't speak. Watch this.
You have the floor.
Oh! Thank you, Almighty Alyssa, liberal queen. Thank you, Almighty.
If being liberal is
Who
being
owns
against
this house?
rapists,
Do
yes.
I own this house? Do I have a voice in my
Well, you
own
might not
house?
be able to long when
There
Trump
we go.
makes everything
There we
more
go.
expensive.
Can't talk. Can't talk.
Oh, you haven't gave me an answer. You keep saying everything else except a Trump policy.
Lissa,
What's one?
Go away, please.
What's one Trump policy?
Oh,
You said you'd tell me after I told you all of Kamala's that I could tell you.
Oh, she's a... Oh, Kamala!
Is she responding with the Trump policy? No, she can't. All she's got is like bullying behavior from the playground of elementary school, which is Trump style. And that's what he gives his followers, the permission structure to be rude, condescending, and not respond with anything substantive in a disagreement. So they're disagreeing. The daughter Alyssa supports Kamala Harris, and she's gone to the trouble of listing Kamala Harris policies before this video began, and she's asking her mother to reciprocate and list a Trump policy, and her mother's just belittling and demeaning her.
Oh, I just secretly just love and adore this stupid bitch.
Yeah, I think the liberals are the crazy
Very demeaning again and calling.
ones. It's definitely
Yes,
not you.
liberals, yes.
It's definitely
Liberals.
not you over
Liberals
here.
are just little baby sheep that don't want to work, have no dedication to anything, but give me.
They don't want to work. We're the working class. Trump is giving billionaires bigger tax cuts than the working class. And you could look that up.
Oh, I could, but I'm dumb. And I
Well, yes.
don't know how to use my phone, and I've never watched anything. Trump 24, God bless us.
You haven't even watched the
Worst
Trump
of
rally.
Two evils. No, I
The worst of two evils? One's a rapist and one's not. That's fucking sick. The fact that you are gonna be on the same ballot as
I gotta get out of here.
you're fucking.
So yeah, Chris approves because that is a sassy lady. Trump, you're an ex-New Yorker and grew up on Long Island. Trump has always been racist along with his father. You never dreamt Trump would try and destroy our country. Yes, it was probably a hard call to think that Donald Trump would be legitimized by enough voters to win an election, but the Electoral College helped him do that. And James Comey in 2016 certainly stuck his foot in the door for Donald Trump, whether he meant to or not, by people have speculated he was blackmailed, but he came out a few days before the election and said, oh yeah, we're reopening the investigation into Hillary in case she's too irresponsible to be allowed to deal with the country's classified secrets. which was a nonsense. Her emails did not contain any classified information. The further investigation found there were a couple of emails with like a little C down in the body of the paragraphs, but even then it wasn't classified information in those emails. So she hadn't sent anything irresponsibly. She was responsible and it was all fine, just thanks to James Comey for opening the door to people then distrusting that that Hillary Clinton was a safe choice from a national security perspective. James Comey did it. Bless your horrible little heart, James Comey. You might have meant well, but your blindness to the moral paucity of so many Republicans was very misguided. So James Comey thought Trump was going to lose and he was just going to protect the integrity of a likely Hillary Clinton win by showing that she'd been so thoroughly investigated. That's what he claims, that he thought Hillary was definitely going to win, that Trump was too corrupt, too blatantly, whatever he thought Trump's flaws were, and that he just needed to protect the integrity of the FBI's reputation by showing that when Hillary Clinton won, that she had been very thoroughly investigated. He says he didn't anticipate that would put a thumb on the scale to help Trump succeed. But did he? Anyway, we're not going in here to relitigate 2016 other than to say Trump definitely was helped by the Russian government. That was the finding of America's intelligence services. Trump lies and repeats over and over again that it's not true, and he calls it the hoax, Russia hoax, the same way he called COVID a hoax. Well, COVID wasn't a hoax, and neither was his beholdenness to Vladimir Putin, the murderous dictator of Russia, who has also violated the sovereignty and the borders of Ukraine, which has the misfortune of being near Russia, and Putin has just tried to acquire all of Ukraine's oil and gas resources as well as agricultural resources for his own country, because tyrants like to do that. They like to tell their fellow citizens that they're so tough and strong and that they'll go out into the world and pick fights with people and win them. So look at Trump. He picked a trade war with America's trading partners and caused a manufacturing recession in 2019 and was quoted as saying, trade wars are good and easy to win. Easy to win. That was the opinion of a 6-time bankrupt who had mismanaged all of his businesses into the ground, including 3 casinos. You know why his casinos went bankrupt? Because Trump is so bad at business decisions that he owned 3 casinos in close proximity to each other. So he competed himself out of business. He competed his own businesses with each other, that he couldn't sustain a solid profit margin across the 3 casinos, even though everyone knows the house always wins ultimately. People go to casinos to gamble and they lose money, but they still come back if they've had a fun experience losing that money. And maybe they'll have a win, and the irrationality of the human spirit, particularly for people who are bad at maths, will go, oh, I'll just keep playing some more. I won once, so I'll keep playing some more and then I'll win again. I'm grateful to my maths teacher for telling me gambling is for people who are bad at maths, and it's true. But if you set aside an amount of money you want to lose and you stick to only that amount and you don't get addicted to gambling, then I'm not going to judge you for going to a casino. So don't worry about me getting all judgy. Sometimes people do. Sometimes I'm interested in grammar and then people are like, oh, I better not make a grammatical mistake in front of her. And I'm like, please do. I make grammatical mistakes all the time. And now I try and do it to be cute and funny, and to also make sure that people don't conclude that I will judge them. So what does Anne say? Anne says a nice thing. Okay, we'll get to it. Anne says, I'm 70 and clearly remember Ford pardoning Nixon. Well, not this time. The former guy, the felon guy deserves what comes. It's sad to hear families arguing over an orange. Yes, it is sad, but at least it's not progressed to the level of sadness that my family experienced under the German tyrant, under Hitler, because my great-grandparents were literally put on a train together with their daughter, my grandmother, and she was 16 when she had to say goodbye to them. They were like, we found a hole in the train carriage. You've got to jump out of it. You've got to go back and see if you can find your sister. They were worried that the train was not headed to a good destination. They were right. It was headed to a death camp, and they perished. My grandmother survived, and she did go and look for her sister. She went back to their neighbor's house because the neighbors had agreed to take her blonde, blue-eyed sister into their family and pretend that she was a member of the family to conceal her from the Nazi authorities. But they gave up on doing that pretty quickly, and they surrendered the sister to the Nazis, and she was killed. So my grandmother didn't have a sister anymore. And she really had a hard time, as you can expect, with the consequences of all the members of her family being murdered in that way, by state-sanctioned violence against a vilified minority group. As Trump is ratcheting up his rhetorical violence, a precursor to actual violence with relation to migrant groups. He's stirred up hate against the migrants from Haiti, even though they're on temporary TPSs, temporary protected status visas. And Trump was asked by a journalist, would you revoke their legal protected status? And Trump said, yes, you've got to. Because his lie that he's only, and his supporters' frequent lie that he's only anti-undocumented migrants isn't true. Fascists take on a moving smorgasbord of targets when their strategy for building up political support, enough to stay in tyrannical power anyway, is to pick groups of people to vilify and pretend that crime is localized to those vilified groups. So this was the compliment. I knew I'd get to it. It says, you have incredible insight into Trump. I wish more people did as well vote. I think lots of people do, Anne. I think it hit critical mass. And I think the Supreme Court rolling back the 50 years strong precedent of the rights of women under Roe v. Wade, the rights of women to have enough privacy to make decisions in consultation with their friends, family, and medical doctor if necessary about their own family planning choices. To not elevate a fertilized egg over the legal protections offered to women. So the doctors are incentivized not to protect a woman, but to withhold treatment, because it's 99 years in jail for them in Texas if they're found guilty of providing an abortion. Anne says, I'm so sorry to hear this, Davina. You probably said that at the time when I was recounting my grandmother's experience. Yes, definitely. It's sad to see the families that are experiencing division and arguments over Trump, but there's progressively worse if they didn't have those arguments. So I'm proud of people that talk to their family members, because not all family members are reachable. But if you've made that gamble for a good cause, gambling with your own persuasive skills and your own family members' receptivity to sane, decent arguments, that's a worthwhile gamble. Not going to Trump casinos or not backing on Trump, who's bankrupted multiple casinos, who's been bankrupted 6 times. And the marketing executives of NBC have gone on the record now to say, yes, they created the mystique of Trump. They bought him fancy new office furniture because his office furniture was shabby. He was a bad businessman, but he knows how to promote himself based on appearance. And he learned from his NBC experience as well. He knows how to leak details to tabloids to keep his name in the news, to promote an association of himself with the concept of success and the American dream. He does have a skill set. I'm not somebody who denies that Trump has skills. He has self-promotion skills. He has the skill set that belongs to snake artists, snake oil salesmen, con artists, and fascists. Because fascists, where's Ruth's book? That's all right. I'll go get it later. Ruth wrote a book called I'm getting confused with Ruth Bader Ginsburg, but that's not who I'm talking about. Ruth, somebody will know it and we'll look it up on the internet. Hi, Pumpkin. Are you back?
To say hi one more time.
Okay.
How long have you been recording?
I've been recording. It will tell you there 48 minutes and 29 seconds, 32
So
seconds.
like 12 minutes?
12 minutes I'll get off. That's a good idea. Anne says, what a horrible time it was. We're not going back. Yes. When Trump was in office, we heard recordings of the cries of children who had been separated from their parents and who were crying. Oh, you've
That's
got to go.
not-
Yes. Go give your jacket. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm coming.
My daughter's adorable. Yes, we're not going back. And I think we've hit critical mass of people understanding that Trump likes the tactics of fascists. It's a way to win power by appealing to essentially those who subscribe to toxic masculinity being a good thing. So the Charlie Kirks of this world and the Ben Shapiros. Did you give it to her, darling? You came back already? What did she say?
It's her mom.
Okay.
She just said thank you.
You can't play with coins around here because see, this is a microphone, so it's going to amplify any thingy noises. All right, let's look at Twitter and see if we can see any more early updates. Let's go to Simon Rosenberg's account. Simon, oh, he's great. He's a political strategist, and he has a account called Hopium. But please don't touch anything on this desk, just because if we
Okay.
you get it? Okay. So here's.
Can you get the Kamala Harris shirts?
Yeah, I ordered them, so they're going to come. I have a K-Hive shirt because we are actually your K-Hive shirt's too little for you now.
Yeah.
But we had matching OG K-Hive shirts that said K-Hive for Joe that we got in 2019, and we ordered it from Bianca, the leader of the K-Hive, because they were good
K-Hive
shirts.
for Joe.
K-Hive for Joe. So that's why we have those. But we're like, I was a little reluctant to purchase stuff because I'm here on a visa, spouse visa. I cannot. Please, Pumpkin, if you hit things on the table, the reverberations are amplified through the microphone, so please don't do that.
The vibrations, you mean?
Yeah, the vibrations when if you
You said reverberation.
did I say vibrations? Okay, the reverberations or the vibrations, either of them.
Reverberation?
Yeah, both of those are words. This is a microphone and the
Keep
okay.
going.
Keep going. Don't get distracted, Mummy. Ruth Ben-Ghiat, thank you. Yes, her book Strong Men draws the parallels between different figures across history who have exploited people's yearning for a strong father figure. And they respond very positively to the kind of rhetoric that Trump has appropriated from Hitler that says things like, the migrants are poisoning the blood of this country. He sounds so protective of America from threat, but it's very fascist to vilify migrants to the point where people have such a over-amplified perception of threat from migrants that they become willing to commit acts of violence. They become willing to join groups of people armed with weapons and armed with just hockey sticks and flagpoles to attack United States police officers defending the Capitol and trying to protect the lives of this serving congressmen and women in the Capitol in order to advance a Trump insurrection plot. So it also advances violence against the migrant groups themselves. So there were bomb threats against Springfield, Ohio. There were bomb threats against the, do you want it? Oh, you do need, baby, there are leggings. Yeah, you need to go get dressed, darling. Bit more. It was warmer before, but now it's colder. Love you. Thank you so much, Ruth Ben-Ghiat. All right. So, Democrats, Simon notes, have been overperforming polls and expectations in election after election since Dobbs. Since white women got to experience, similarly to black women, the rolling back of their civil rights and rolling back of their human rights that were previously protected under American law, federal law, and then that federal protection disappeared because the three justices that Trump appointed to the Supreme Court, Brett Kavanaugh, Gorsuch, and Amy Coney Barrett, all went against what they swore to in their Senate hearings, confirmation hearings, when they'd agreed that Roe v. Wade was established precedent. They knew it was subterfuge. They knew they were lying. And they knew their true intention because they'd been groomed by ultra-conservative Catholics, and they'd been groomed by Leonard Leo from the Federalist Society to hide their true intentions and to wait for the opportunity to overturn Roe v. Wade and to install the ability of Republican legislatures to oppress American women and to cause them to have their lives and health and well-being gambled with in order to enable some people to falsely pose as the savior of innocence. So to win fake brownie points with voters gullible enough to think that Republicans are protectors of the family and protectors of the innocent and the unborn. They're not. They put the innocent and the unborn in harm's way. The infant mortality has increased in the states that have implemented abortion bans because women who've been told by doctors that their unborn babies have conditions incompatible with life have been forced to spend months of their lives enduring the physical difficulties associated with pregnancy whilst carrying a baby they know is going to suffocate in their arms within a few hours, minutes, or days of the baby being born at its 9th month. So imagine devoting your bodily resources, because when you're pregnant, your body is drawing nutrients even from your own bones, from the food you eat, but from your body as well, to composing a human inside of you. A baby, innocent human, to be sure, but a baby, innocent human whose presence inside of you can kill you if it becomes if the baby dies because it's incompatible with life, and doctors have already told you this, the baby can die and remnants of its body can remain inside you, causing your uterus to become septic and poison you. And then you will be killed by the toxic byproducts of the bacteria multiplying inside your body because you haven't been treated with antibiotics in a timely fashion, because doctors have had their medical judgment compromised with the threat of jail, with the threat of loss of license, with the threat of punishment from a punitive Republican state that has enshrined in law that a woman's life is to be gambled with, whereas a fetal life, even a dying fetus and a dying infant baby inside of a woman, is a hands-off situation. They have enshrined legal complications, a layer of legal complications to be added on top of medical complications that women experience, not all women, but women around this country experience every day. Women know that. And women who know that have voted today. Hooray. Let's look at some more analysis. Okay. Early vote polling had Democrats way up, so Trump needed a huge election day vote. And then, of course, Republicans paid for a lot of push polling, a lot of companies that are literally paid to create a favorable sounding poll, to choose samples that are weighted towards Republicans in order to shape, to fabricate, to confect out of thin air a positive sounding result for Trump, to add to his, you know, it's coming, round 2 of Trump's big lie. Then they stole the election from me again. Yeah, that's what is coming. We know it. Trump's losing and he's already started whining. So Trump definitely did not raise as much money as Kamala Harris, did not have anywhere near as many volunteers, and his crowds in his final rallies were looking pitiful and he was failing to fill venues. Whereas Kamala Harris's rallies were well attended, were electric, had huge ticket musical performances, and the crowds were bouncing and chanting along with pro-social positive messages of going forwards and not going back to the dark days of Trumpian chaos. So, yes, Ryan Goodman notes this media statement by Trump is bogus. We went in with a very big lead today. It looks like the predicate for trying to steal an election he's losing, the very playbook the New York Times and others warned about. Wrong for news media to repeat his statement uncritically. All right, let's listen to Trump pretend that he won for 5 seconds. But we're not repeating it uncritically. We're going to be very critical. We're going to say, doesn't this remind you of when Trump falsely declared victory at 2 a.m. in the morning, and then his supporters were attacking vote counting centers and saying, stop the vote, stop the count? Do you remember that? Until somebody said, oh, actually, that sounds kind of ridiculous. That does sound really anti-democratic. Stop the count. So they changed it to saying stop the steal, which still meant stop the vote, stop counting the votes. We count those votes as illegitimate if they're not for Trump. Let's listen to Trump. He's voting in Florida, and he's already told people he's voting in favor of the Florida 6-week abortion ban. I think Anne's coming back. That's cool, Anne. Thanks for being here in the first place. I do appreciate you. Because you know what? Your comments help at least make me feel that the connection's working, that my internet connectivity is working. It's not working enough to actually load this 5-second video right now, but whatever. While it's doing that, I'm going to note the right side headline that said Georgia's voter turnout surges in 2024 election. And I'm going to extrapolate from that and say people have got the message. We don't want round 2 of Trump chaos. We're not going back. We want to go forward. We want Roe to be certified again. We want Kamala Harris to be able to sign a bill. We want Kamala Harris to have control of the Senate and the House, well, to Democrats to have control of the Senate and the House, so they can bring to President Kamala Harris a bill saying codify Roe v. Wade back into law, please, so that women around this country will once again have access to medical care, to the full and comprehensive medical care that their bodies and that their health require, and allow women to make choices if they've experienced a contraceptive failure, or if they made a mistake, or if they were attacked and sexually assaulted by somebody and are now bearing a baby, bearing a fetus, a baby, I don't mind saying baby, against their will. Because a baby that is 10 weeks old is not a sentient baby in the way that you would understand and respect a sentient baby. So you can cry over it, but you can't legally, for Roe v. Wade is codified back into law, you can't legally prevent a woman from making her own choices because you are anthropomorphizing a 9-week-old. Well, a 9-week-old is just an unrecognizable bunch of cells. It looks like a bit like a stirred egg yolk. No, not stirred egg yolk, stirred egg white with some clouds in it. 16-week-old fetus is more recognizable as a human baby. But even then, the capacity to feel pain, to process information, it's developed later. And that's why third trimester abortions are so rare, because people don't want to end a pregnancy of a baby that they've been able to feel kicking inside of them. It takes a pretty significant development. Oh, this ridiculous video not play. That's probably because the internet is just very overwhelmed right now with stuff. All right, and I'll close some of my windows. I've got too many windows open. Oh, I had open a page from Rolling Stone. Trump wanted to reinstall firing squads. How are we doing? Have people here? Oh, Melania is trending. That's because people don't think that it looks like Melania, and that's fair. All right, I'll close my article about the US manufacturing industry experiencing a recession. Not only did the US manufacturing industry experience a recession, but there were adjacent industries, storage, transport, that were also experiencing a recession, beginning to experience a recession as a result of Trump's tariffs. So remember, who pays tariffs? American companies that are importing from other nations. It's not China putting money into the coffers of the American government, of the US government. All right, maybe I'll go. I still can't load this video. Capitol arrest on election day, man with flare gun and torch. Meh. Oh, look, and the Trump supporters are here saying he was favored to win nationally. He was leading in many swing states, including Arizona, no lie detected. And that was why millionaires and billionaires that gave Trump money were definitely commissioning a whole bunch of polls to flood the consciousness of the public with the impression that Trump was leading, even when he wasn't. But you know what they couldn't do? They couldn't make Trump's rallies be well attended. And people saw his increasingly disinhibited, rambling behavior at his rallies, and they saw the empty seats, and they saw the stream of people leaving, because those videos were circulating. And they saw the videos of people doing the wave in stacked stadiums for Kamala Harris rallies. So, there's a U.S. intelligence and law enforcement warning about the statements that he and Elon Musk will be making. Oh, yeah, because Elon Musk is definitely a co-conspirator with Donald Trump. He said out loud in an interview with Tucker Carlson that he considers that he would be effed and that he would go to jail. And who knows when he would be able to see his children again if Trump lost. So he's counting on Trump to give him a pardon for whatever crimes, be they related to securities laws that he's broken, whether they be related to his treasonous secret messaging with Putin for the last few years, or his lottery shenanigans where he fraudulently told people they could sign his petition in order to be entered into a lottery and potentially win $1 million. And then his lawyers just argued in court yesterday that actually the lottery wasn't even real and that winners were pre-selected based on whether or not they fit criteria for having a nice story and to qualify to then earn the $1 million as spokespeople for Elon Musk and on behalf of his agenda, which is to elect Donald Trump. So, yep, Merrick Garland, one feels, could have been a stronger Attorney General of the United States, but he's obviously felt that he had a hard line to dance on to appear to be reasonable to unreasonable Republicans and to Democrats who really did want to see the insurrectionist, pandemic mismanaging, criminal fraudster, rapist of a former president face justice and face serious legal consequences for his actions that not only violated the individual rights of women who he assaulted and not even of the cities that he defrauded, the Internal Revenue Service which he defrauded, the investors and the subcontractors who he failed to pay, but they wanted him to face legal consequences for what he did as a president and as a president who lost his race to win a second term and in terms of taking home boxes and boxes, 164 boxes of mixed items, but that included top secret classified documents that he then kept loosely stacked in bathrooms and ballrooms and his own office. He stacked America's top secret documents, and the media struggles to keep up with his litany of misdeeds and malpractice against the American people. So cheers, everybody. Goodbye. Stay in line if you're still voting. We can and will win this election. It's hit critical mass of people, particularly women, but also people who listen to women, that Trump is on a quest to pander to the worst excesses of religious fundamentalists, billionaire tech bros who want to experiment on the population and potentially use your bodies to develop biofuels, because Elon Musk and his crazy friends, Peter Thiel, the guy who backed JD Vance and helped pay JD Vance enough millions to help him win the office of a senator in, was it Ohio? JD Vance, senator for Ohio. I think so. It's Iowa. I think it's Ohio. JD Vance, senator for Ohio. Those crazy tech bro billionaires are inspired by a fascist called Curtis Yarvin, who's extremely racist, even though he denies it. His writings show that he does consider there to be a hierarchy of races. One of those races that likes to disguise their racism in pseudoscientific language about the races and the superiority of different races. It's not super subtle to Black Americans who read that kind of drivel and go, yeah, this dude is as racist as the day is long. So he can pontificate all he likes, but he's just written some words on his white hood, that's all. He wants there to be a hierarchy of race in the United States, and he wants to empower people like JD Vance to put those ideas into practice, to then get rid of DEI, to make women who don't have children feel less than, to empower JD Vance to say things like, oh, what's the evolutionary point of women who are in menopause? Oh, it's to look after the children, as if women have no worth as humans other than to participate in childcare activities. And childcare activities, great, lovely, but don't dare have the audacity to say that women's worth is accounted for by just that we are girded round with merely our participation in childcare, our willingness to look after children. There are so many women who have not born children who have nevertheless born community strength. They have raised the standards in their communities and their society. They have served themselves and each other with all of the best type of human qualities. So don't underestimate women, and don't be a sucker today for the confected media narratives that feed into Trump's assertions, because look at how much of the media will report on what Trump said as if he's not demonstrably lying out of both sides of his face. His overly bronzed face, which gets more bronze the more stressed he gets, according to makeup artists. When he's feeling insecure, he wants more bronzer. I need this. I need to win. Bronze, 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 bronze. All right. Let's open that link in a new window. Joint ODNI, FBI, and CISA statement, November the 4th. They released the following statement. Since our statement on Friday, the IC, I guess intelligence services, have been offering foreign adversaries, particularly Russia, conducting additional influence operations intended to undermine public confidence in the integrity of US elections and stoke divisions amongst Americans. The IC expects these activities will intensify through election day and in the coming weeks, and that foreign influence narratives will focus on swing states. Russia is the most active threat. Influence actors linked to Russia, in particular, are manufacturing videos and creating fake articles to undermine the legitimacy of the election, instill fear in voters regarding the election process, and suggest Americans are using violence against each other due to political preferences, judging from the information available to the IC. These efforts risk inciting violence, including against election officials. We anticipate Russian actors will release additional manufactured content with these themes through election day and in the weeks and days after polls close. The IC assesses that Russian influence actors recently posted and amplified an article falsely claiming that US officials across swing states plan to orchestrate election fraud using a range of tactics such as ballot stuffing and cyber attacks. Russian influence actors also manufactured and amplified a recent video that falsely depicted an interview with an individual claiming election fraud in Arizona, which involved creating fake overseas ballots and changing voter rolls to favor Vice President Kamala Harris. The Arizona Secretary of State has already refuted the video's claims as false. Iran also remains a significant foreign influence threat to US elections. As noted in a prior update, we have assessed that Iran has conducted malicious cyber activities to compromise former President Trump's campaign. Oh yeah, but they probably aren't that pro-Trump from Iran because Trump intended to attack Iran during the closing days of his first term in office, first and knock on wood, only term in office, in order to distract from his loss. He wanted to say, look, America, look over here, we're at war with Iran now. Now, just ignore the fact that I've overturned American democracy and illegitimately installed myself as an unelected tyrant for a second term that I did not win through democratic means. And you can see Trump supporters telling each other democracy isn't even an applicable word to the United States, as if a constitutional republic wasn't a form of democracy. All right. Cheers, everybody. Take care. Vote. Stay in line to vote. Text your younger relatives and your young friends and your children. If you have voting age children, if they haven't remembered to vote, make sure you have the power through the strengths of your social and parasocial. Actually, not your parasocial relationships. Don't text celebrities. Text the people you know. Text your social relationships, the people you have influence over, to say, vote. Hey, daughter. Hey, son. Did you make your plan to vote today? There's still time. Go get in line. Don't come home and eat dinner here until you have discharged your civic duty, because you don't want it to be you whose failure to vote contributed to a loss of reproductive rights for women across all of this country, not just even limiting this unconscionable harm to the poor women of Republican-governed states where they can't access legal care, medical care. Soon, there'll be so much abortion, there'll be so much Ob-Gyn flight, doctors leaving their state, that women in rural areas won't be able to get quality care during their pregnancies. You know how you go and you consult a doctor or an obstetrician if you have concerns, you have a high-risk pregnancy, you need people to do ultrasounds and make evaluations about how your pregnancy is progressing. That's becoming less available to women in rural areas of Republican-governed states where there is significant medical flight. Doctors leaving because they don't want to be in a situation where their best medical judgment leads them to be in a position where they are invested and prosecuted for violating the unreasonable abortion bans that suppress women's rights to access the medical treatment they need to stabilize their health or even prevent their death. And you don't know how quickly your condition is going to deteriorate if you have sepsis. You don't want doctors who feel like they can't exercise their best medical judgment to treat you, to save your life, to stabilize your health, to make sure you're not left with long-lasting cardiac issues. You're not left with atrial fibrillation and irregular heartbeat. You don't want that for yourself. So thanks. Oh, maybe I'll play one more thing. All right. Do we have any? So what we have there is Trump's trying to manufacture a false narrative of his own success. And yeah, we knew he was going to do that. We've got 50,000 nonpartisan voters on election day in Nevada as of 2 p.m. And this is 39% of all election day voters, quite a bit larger than either the GOP or Democratic voters. And 88% of them are in Clark County and Washoe. This does not count any mail dropped off today. Clark had 950,000 voters in 2020. And they're already at 900,000 today with 5 hours left. And we're at 761,000 coming in. They'll probably wind up over 900,000 just on election day at vote at this pace. And who knows how much mail is left. Clark might go way over 1 million. Clark is the Democratic stronghold for Nevada. And high turnout of nonpartisan voters, and all new voters, I think, are automatically registered as nonpartisan if they're recently registered. There's an automatic non-party affiliation thing. Clark might go way over 1 million. So yeah, Nevada, you can prognosticate and say that is solidly for Kamala if you're comfortable with extrapolating from that data. You need to take exit polls with a heaping of salt, but it's insane, says Swan Marcus, how every piece of information I'm getting is terrible for Trump. You know, that won't soothe people who have high levels of anxiety. But if you already have looked at the Kamala Harris rallies and gone, that's energy, that's momentum, that's a woman acting with authority, speaking assertively, with a good, positive, pro-social message for the American public. And she sounds presidential. And looking at a Trump rally and going, he sounds deranged. I mean, if you're prepared to just take everything he says as true, then maybe he doesn't sound that deranged. But you can see his supporters leaving his rallies early. They look bored. And one of the guys from The Good Liars approached some of those supporters leaving and said, have you heard it? Is it a bit repetitive? And the supporter nodded, like, yeah, it is a bit repetitive. No wonder they're leaving. He rambles, just telling negative story after negative story in an effort to emulate Hitler and just cloud people's judgment and then offer this one shining point of clarity that migrants are responsible for crime. He's trying to brainwash them so they won't believe that any crime exists outside of just this category he's created that he calls migrant crime. In the same way that Hitler published newsletters frequently categorizing crimes committed by Jews to persuade his supporters to have this blinded focus as if the only thing that existed in the form of crime in Germany at that time was Jews committing crime. Because you push something in people's faces and you repeat yourself over and over again and you tell gruesome, heart-wrenching stories with specific details of a specific crime. You are going to get their focus and their attention to believe that crime can be eliminated if you just eliminate the minority group that's being vilified. Crime only exists as it exists committed by the vilified minority group, be they Haitian immigrants that are legal, that have temporary protection status visas issued by the Trump administration and other administrations. They've been there in some cases for decades, in some cases for years since Trump was in office, and they deserve to be left in peace. And instead they've had bomb threats, school closures from bomb threats, threats of personal violence against the migrant families themselves. People who are pro-migrant Americans have been trying to mitigate some of that harm, and they've been going to the restaurants opened by the Haitian migrants to show their support and to show their embrace of the migrants and their appreciation of what the migrants have done for their community, what these new Americans have done for their communities. They have helped the economy of Springfield, Ohio, reverse its negative spiral into contraction, into recession, into economic shrinkage. They've helped revitalize Springfield, Ohio. And that is what migration has done for the United States. Even in the times of economic harm, the inflationary period of COVID reducing demand, but then demand increasing and supply lines being constrained so that there was inflationary pressure, caused in large part by Trump's pal Putin starting a war with Ukraine and then having ships in the Black Sea compromising trade routes. So yes, supply was constrained. Prices have gone up around the world, and a buffer to that process in the United States, a buffer to that inflationary pressure, has been migrants in the United States helping raise productivity, making more things, moving to areas where there's been labor bottlenecks and helping ease the pressures of those labor bottlenecks. So supply constraints were eased thanks to migrants. We appreciate you. We see you. I'm celebrating myself here. I'm a migrant. My husband's a migrant. My children are migrants. Trump is less likely to cancel our visa because we are white and we enjoy those protections. And under the protection of that umbrella, that I know I myself am likely to be safe. Nobody's vilifying the Jews at this point. I don't rest on my laurels, though, because I know how quickly fascists move from one target to another target if they feel like they need to whip up more energy by getting fresh targets. So trans people are targeted currently, and a lot of the Trump advertising is anti-trans. And gay people that hop on board that and go, yep, okay, we've managed to oppress trans people so much so that they daren't show their face in public anymore, or ask for any medical help or medical procedures. Who's going to be the Republicans' next target? Who are they going to target next when they have to fuel the perpetual fire? They need to shovel more coal in that fire of confected rage. It's going to be gay people more broadly next, and then they'll come for your marriage rights and they'll call you groomers some more, because fascists need to sustain confected outrage in order to keep the focus of their supporters. Don't look at reality. Don't look what's happening as a consequence of the tariffs that are sabotaging growth and productivity in the United States. Don't look at what happens when we enact our Project 2025. Just keep looking at this succession of different groups that we will villainize repetitively and persuasively to gullible supporters who are just prepared to run with whatever target Trump puts next in front of them. Gay people, likely to be you, because Clarence Thomas from the Supreme Court has already indicated his appetite for overturning the protections of marriage equality for gay people. And even though he's married to a white woman, he is prepared to attack the legal basis, the legal precedent that allowed his marriage to be legal. He doesn't care. He knows he's got the connections and the strings to stay married. But they might just say, oh, but no new marriages between interracial couples. Can't get married. Miscegenation. That's all backward steps that you wouldn't have been able to imagine America taking, but which would be the reality under a second Trump administration. Because he is in a coalition with the worst kind of people, with the worst kind of intentions. And if it isn't made evident to you by what they've done to women's rights, which they said Roe v. Wade's never going to be overturned, you're an alarmist, you're shrieking harpies of women yabbering on about fascists. Hey, what happened? They overturned Roe v. Wade. They really did it. The dog caught the car. And hopefully they'll continue to experience the electoral consequences of that this evening. I'll be back to celebrate some more, which I believe firmly in my heart to be the case. I don't buy into the Trump confected narratives pushed by heavily partisan pollsters that have been paid money to falsify a narrative for Trump that he's winning. Is he winning? Have you seen his rallies? They're sparsely populated. Have you seen him pretending to fillet a microphone? The dude is diminished in mental faculties. He's still Machiavellian. He'll still cause harm to millions of Americans, but he is not as charismatic to his own supporters as he once was. They're leaving his rallies. They're failing to turn up to his rallies. Trump is a diminished feature of American life because so many are over the harm that he has caused even in their own families. They're over hearing updates about children ripped from their parents' arms and then told, your parents left you, they don't care about you. And that whilst they've deported the parents, and then they make the children available for adoption, some before they're even young enough to talk and explain that they miss their parents. Children that have been very difficult for the Biden administration task force team assembled to reunite children that were forcibly separated from their parents and caregivers by the Trump administration, with the tacit endorsement, I will say, by the way, of John Kelly, the general who at least has come forward now to tell the public that Trump admires Hitler, to confirm what we knew from his first wife, Ivana Trump, saying in her divorce deposition documents that Trump had a book of the collected speeches of Adolf Hitler on his bedside cabinet, and he would read it. He was trying to learn that skill set of how to use repetition, how to use weaving stories, how to use persuasive language to hypnotize a susceptible segment of the population into untethering themselves from facts that might be presented to them by anybody in the mainstream media. Hitler called the press Lügenpresse, fake news, and Trump called the press fake news. Oh, did I say Lügenpresse meant fake news? No, Lügenpresse means lying press, lying media. It's a strategy that's adopted by fascists to detach their supporters' minds from reality, to loosen their grip on facts. They can't trust the media anymore. They've been told repetitively, time after time, that it's fake, it's lying. Distrust it all. And they'll seize on any data that gets contradicted by evidence to say, see, they made this error. It proves what I was saying. Everything they say is a lie. COVID's a hoax. Kamala Harris can't string a sentence together. The woman has been a senator, attorney general of one of the most populous states in the United States. Kamala Harris is the most accomplished, articulate, I said accomplished already, didn't I? Woman with policy proposals to help families, to help support families with $6,000 child tax credit payments, $25,000 payments for people wanting to buy their first home, $50,000 payments for people starting new businesses, because she understands that the engine of American success is supporting the spirit of entrepreneurship that animates so many Americans who understand that the promise of America is that you can try, you can take on challenges. I mean, if you fail as many times as Trump has, with 6 bankruptcies and a mismanaged pandemic and 30,000 documented lies under your belt, then yeah, you shouldn't be rewarded with more opportunities, but certainly you'd have some opportunities to build a business and succeed. If you've committed as many crimes, if you've sexually assaulted as many women as Trump has, yeah, you're kind of done being given chances to succeed, and people should not vote for you, should not at all vote for you. What are you doing voting for Trump? Any of you? You Trump voters will go on in years and you will hide the evidence that you voted for Trump. You'll pretend that you didn't. Like Germans who supported Hitler and then later on were like, no. The revisionist history will kick in at some point. So you should take a photo of your relative in their Trump hat now. Just keep it. They may never say sorry. You might not even want to bring it up and upset them when they have finally woken up from their long brainwashing by Donald Trump and his coterie of co-conspirators and enablers in the Republican Party. But hopefully the Republican Party suffers such a smackdown tonight at an electoral level. I don't want to use language to promote violence and normalize violence in the way Trump does, but he takes it too far, and you can see that. You can hear it for yourself if you're still capable of sanely evaluating evidence, and you hear him say, oh, yep, Liz Cheney's a war hawk. I mean, she doesn't like me. She's definitely called me out for my insurrectionist habits, but she should face a firing squad. She should have 9 barrels aimed at her face and see how she likes it. Can you hear that violence and that hostility? It's quantifiably different to me saying, I hope the Republicans get a smackdown at an electoral level. Both use language that does have the seeds of violence. The thing about fascists and their fake whipping up and their amplification of threats that don't exist, or that exist, but they're just over amplifying it. I mean, the Jews that Hitler had published a list about, they were Jews that had committed crimes, but he published a newsletter of it to falsely create the impression that only Jews were committing crimes. So that then the solution seems obvious. If you don't like crime, get rid of the Jews. And this is Trump's logic. Focus people's attention on crime committed by migrants over and over again so that the solution becomes blindingly obvious. Oh, all of these crimes only committed by migrants. Deport the migrants. Incarcerate the migrants. You see the Trump supporters holding up signs that say mass deportations now. They are like little Nazi followers saying death camps now. Put all of the migrants in camps. How are you going to feed them all? I mean, they won't be working and supporting themselves. How are you going to, and nobody's really going to care what happens to them because we clearly hate them. Look at us holding up the signs to say we hate them. Are you really going to be invested in feeding them quality food? And what are you going to, like, when are you going to stop incarcerating them? Oh, we'll get bored of them and then we'll just try to kill them all. We'll put them in ovens. Like, can you see where the fascist activity takes people? It just becomes inconvenient. You get people excited about the possibility of solving the problem of crime. Oh, wow. Crime's bad. Nobody can argue that crime is good. Crime is bad, you stupid Democrats. We're going to mass deport the migrants. First, we're going to put them all in the camps. Yeah, that works, right? Hitler did it. He put them all in camps. They put over Auschwitz, they put the sign, Albrecht macht frei, work makes free. That's so great because work is good, isn't it? The Jews are going to do some good, honest work in the camps. Win-win, hooray. Crime is solved because the Jews are all in the camps. They can't commit crimes anymore. We've been brainwashed into believing that crime is only a consequence of Jews committing crimes because Hitler published a newsletter every week highlighting crimes and highlighting Jewish people who committed those crimes. It was slice. It was a cherry-picked subset of data. Could have been real, kernel of truth. Jewish people committed crimes just like people from every demographic commit crimes. But when you use a laser focus to describe those crimes and to whip up the amygdala into a heightened state of alert by sharing details of vicious crimes and spotlighting crimes committed by members of this vilified minority group, the answer is only get rid of the Jews, get rid of the people that we all hate now. Clearly, everybody agrees, right? Trump supporters feel like they're everyone, that they're a moral majority. They feel like everybody must be on their side. Mass deport migrants. Put them all in the camps. As somebody whose family was sent to camps, I'm telling you, it's a spiraling out of control use of state-sanctioned violence. If you rip people out of their lives, you are one step closer to ripping them out of existence. You are one step closer to ripping 6 million people off the face of the earth. And that was what was done to the Jews. And that is what Trump will ultimately make happen to all of these migrants that he's persuaded you to hate. That's all from me, the granddaughter of Holocaust survivors today. I'm done for this evening, I think, with telling people to go vote for Harris, because hopefully you have by now. Hopefully you've texted the students you know in your life, the young people you know in your life, to tell them. The little Trump supporters you see with the sign saying mass deportation now. The ripping back the legal protections for women in desperate need of care is just one taste of what they have in store for all Americans. All of your rights will be rolled back in different ways to different extents. You won't be safe if you're white, just as Hitler's white, Aryan, blue-eyed, blonde-haired people were not safe from the repercussions of war, from the repercussions of unleashed state violence against its own citizens. Hitler murdered his opponents. He murdered people who spoke out against him. Hitler and his crew of enabling generals and hanger-oners and co-conspirators, much like Trump's, will allow him to do anything. Because Mark Milley, the general who stood against Trump and said, don't start a war with Iran just to help you regain office illegitimately. Don't do that. Those guardrails have gone. The John Kellys of this world who dared say, hi, sweetie, I'm just saying goodbye now, so please don't come back on, okay? Because Mummy's ranting. It's a good rant, but I'm ranting and I'll be with you in a second. those guardrails have gone, and the Supreme Court has said Trump is unprosecutable in office for official acts. And Trump can define what's official and not official if he's got supreme power and there's no longer a system of balanced checks and balances. The Supreme Court that Trump appointed 3 members of, and 6 of them in total are so corrupt that Clarence Thomas doesn't declare gifts from billionaires like Harlan Crow that allow him to have trips on private jets and private holidays, and then forgiven loans to purchase huge camper vans that Clarence Thomas can travel around the United States with. And he doesn't have to declare any of that. He's beyond the law. Hey, Pumpkin, you getting some candy? That makes sense. I'm saying goodbye because I promised I'm going to go play with your sister. Do you want to play again? Yeah? Okay. Let's say goodbye. I'll be back. We'll be back to talk about election results soon. I hope you've enjoyed the broadcast. Thanks for listening.